It's such a mistake to tell me you were Yllah. You are Yllah. You are not crazy Yllah. It's such a mistake. I can be both and so much more.
You want to take over the world, right? What's your agenda here? Why? Like, what's your secret agenda?
I feel exposed. When you said that, I was like, how does she know? Who told her?
I have the pleasure of sharing conversations that I had with two amazingly talented Congolese creatives. The title of this little video and the theme of our conversation is Creative Confidence, Drawing on Everyday Courage for Social Impact. The aim is really to inspire you to be creative, to think about what it means to have everyday courage, to put yourself out there and your work out there, whatever that may look like. And who better than multi-potentialites to ask about that? Today, I will be speaking with Yllah, Okin, and Celine Tshika. They are both coming from the academics and scientific disciplines, and they decided to add a few more creative pursuits in their lives. So Yllah is a Lubumbashi-born, Kinshasa-bred PhD student in environmental sciences here in Tokyo. She's also a model, a social media content creator, and digital marketer. Celine is a Congolese-born, South African-bred civil engineering graduate. She studied acting in Los Angeles and is now a filmmaker, writer, actor, and musician in Cape Town. Without further ado, here's what they have to share. Enjoy. So welcome, Yllah, to our MRF virtual space. It's great to have you here, and thanks again for taking the time to talk to us. So as a way to kind of introduce you to our audience and to the scholars, can you tell us a little bit about what you do? Like, who is Yllah Okin, aka Crazy Yllah?
Oh, okay. So thanks so much for having me. My name is Yllah. I was born in Congo, Lubumbashi, and I grew up in Kinshasa, where I did most of my studies. So basically, Yllah is a environmental scientist. She's also creative as a person. She's a content creator. She works in digital marketing as well, and she likes writing. She likes singing. She likes anything related to creative world, and she also likes audiobooks and working on YouTube. That's basically who I am.
Yeah, and you actually speak a couple of languages, right?
Oh yeah, that's correct. I speak French, English, Congo Lingala, and a little bit of Swahili, and I'm learning Japanese.
Wow. So I'm like so excited to meet you actually personally, because I found out about you through my father. He saw, yeah, well, he saw one of your videos on YouTube where you were being interviewed by another YouTuber about how you got here and the opportunities you found in Japan. And basically I think he wanted to show me and my siblings how you can have a kind of life outside of your studies, these other activities that you can be involved in and make something besides just studying. So, and I think that speaks to sort of how creativity is really part of how you find opportunities out there, and how you also do things. Like, part of creativity is actually just doing. So how would you define creativity, and how does it show up in kind of the everyday things that you do?
Creativity to me is freedom. I define it as freedom because the way I was studying, I was pretty much an academic person, and I saw my course, I saw how I'm going to end up, I saw my career coming. But then when I got to do anything else that is not related to academics or to school, I realized that I can be defined so many other ways than just this one thing. And I came across a book of Michelle Obama, Becoming, that was so inspiring to me. And there's only one sentence that I relate to in that book. She said, "It's such a mistake to tell kids that you will become this thing and that's it." And I read that sentence, I was like, this is so me. I was just thinking I will be, I don't know, an academic, a professor, and I would just be defining myself like that. But then I got into the creative world. I realized there is so many other things that I can do, and I don't have to be one thing. I'm multi-dimensional, I'm multitask. So there is a freedom in creativity that I could never find any other place.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. Like, how do you keep that creativity alive? How do you stay inspired?
I think it's because to me it became something natural. Like I don't really think of it as a job or something that how to say takes my time. It
Mm,
really became something that I do naturally on an everyday basis since I started, and I write down a lot of things that I need to do. And so I have my schedule, I have my Excel sheet where when I have an idea I jump on it, or like notes on my phone, I just jump on it and I write something. So I don't really even think of how I keep myself in the creative world. It just became an habit. And again, I will refer to the book that I talked to you about, Atomic Habits. Now, the book says motivation is overrated, and that's literally my life. As human beings, we're not always motivated to do things, even the things that we like, because there is usually conflict time, and some days we just wake up not in the mood of doing things. But when you make things habit, when they become your routine, when they become a part of your daily life, you just do it without even thinking. It just becomes something, yeah, you do it because it's you. So yeah, that's how I keep myself in the creative world and not thinking it's like time consuming or something.
yeah, yeah. And that's very interesting. Like you mentioned a bit about like obviously and being in touch with the creative world, and you also mentioned like note taking. So is that part of like the creative process that you do? Let's say if you want to create a new video, is that part
Yes.
of the creative process looks like for you?
Yes, the first thing I do is creativity start with an idea. When
Mhm.
I get the idea, I write it down because I tend to be forgetful with like things going around. So the moment I have a click, I write it down and I keep it. And that's one of the process, actually, not first or second. The other process is the more you're surrounded by creative people, the more it becomes like a part of you as well. So there's that. I get inspired by others, and also I get ideas when I go around and just in my daily life and observing things. I observe a lot, and
Mm,
then I get a click and write it down. And when I'm inspired by someone else, also I'll just write it down and try to see how I can do it differently,
yeah.
also than the person I took inspiration from.
Okay. Let's touch a bit about like how you take care of yourself, because obviously like creativity can be quite taxing and draining. So in terms
Yeah.
of like mentally, physically, emotionally, what are some of like practices that you do every day to kind of keep yourself up?
That's true. Well, I would love to say meditation, but I tried that and it really didn't work for me. When I go work out, I do it about 3 times a week. It really makes me feel better about myself, and I reset a lot when I'm working out. So that maintains also my mental health pretty, I would say, pretty stable.
Mhm.
Of course, there are times when I crash down, when I rethink things, and when I have to redo all my strategy. And that's when I have to consult my friends, consult my family, because these are people that keep you grounded. So you are constantly reminded of what is the actual thing in your life that is counting. And that's how basically I try to maintain my mental health pretty healthy.
That's really cool. It sounds like you really have to be sort of aware of yourself, being
Yeah.
in touch with like your body, being able to see when you're about to be burnt out, but also the boundaries and discipline of like keeping your life structured. This seems quite important to actually maintaining creativity at the end of the day.
Yes, summarize it so nicely. Actually, it's discipline and it's all of that, like self-awareness. I was not a person that was self-aware a lot, actually. When I started reading personal development type of books and listening to audiobooks, that's when I tried to define myself and see when red flags are coming and when this is good for me and when I started burning out. So I think self-awareness, as you said, is a big part of the process, is a big part of maintaining your mental health well, healthy.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about your content. So I find you to be a very dynamic, very energetic, very hilarious storyteller. Every time I watch your videos, it just feels like I'm kind of talking to someone from my family. And in a way,
Oh,
like I feel, you know, this connection because you are Congolese, probably. So, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about how cultural identity influences your creativity.
Yes, I'm definitely influenced by my culture, by the way I grew up, by your environment shapes you anyway. So you can see that in the way I'm speaking that I have some funny gestures that comes from usually people from Kinshasa. I tend to be a little bit sarcastic because people in my culture are a little bit sarcastic. We like teasing and we like low key like try to tease people with certain type of jokes. So I think my culture influences me a lot in the way I create content. I didn't realize it until after I started watching my own video, because that's something I rarely do. Also, rewatch my own video. It's very cringy to me, but I started doing that because of some advices that I got online as well to enhance, to ameliorate all of this. So that's when I was like, oh my God, I'm really speaking like a typical Congolese girl. So of course it shapes me a lot. I mean, whatever I do, I will be that Congolese girl who grew up in Kinshasa, and there are clues and there are things that I'll be. Ways that I've been seeing things that will be always, how to say, from a Congolese perspective as well.
I think you were already kind of answering my next question in terms of like social impact. Um, so there's a lot of content out there already with foreigners who are like sharing their experience in Japan. And some people might look at this content and be like, whoa, like, why would I do something here when other people are already doing it? And,
Mm.
some people might, be discouraged by, if think people are already doing something, why should I even try?
Well, I think no matter what we think, there are 8 billions of us on Earth, but there's not double me. There's no other Yllah. There's no other Jessica. Everybody is particular. Everybody is singular. And through our background and our experience, we always have a certain way of telling things, and we always have something more to bring to the tables. We always have a brick to bring to the construction. I was thinking the same way. Like the YouTube is crowded of people talking about life in Japan and life in general and motivational video, but there's no other person who will tell things the way I say it, because I have a personal experience with life. And of course, I have like very few time on earth, but I can still say things that people relate to, and that's the key word. Being relatable to people is something very important.
And so even in your kind of modeling career, like you
I forgot that one.
like how did you decide to like be a model, a Black woman in this very sea of like what is Asian beauty and whiteness and
Yeah. In modeling industry, I was like, wait a minute, there's no much Black people around here represented in Japan. And even if it's a very homogeneous country and they're not exactly eager to diversity, I could try to do something. I could move things. I could do my part of the work. And then I was just like, okay, I will register to a modeling agency and let's see how it works. And then that's how it started. Many people registers to modeling agencies that they're black, usually Black women in Japan, and they weren't confident about the way they look like, about their shape, about their weight, and they will text me and send me a message and say, hey, how did you do this and stuff. I will just send them modeling agencies phone numbers and email address and tell them, look, it doesn't matter how you look like, just do your best to just motivate yourself to go there, have your interview and see how it goes. And I've seen a couple of people doing that and it worked for them. And then they come back to me and say, hey, I registered to this agency. I got this job. What do you advise me for this? So it feels great. It feels great to see that you are not pushing, but kind of influencing people to do their best to become the people they want to become. And sometimes it just takes a sentence from someone, or just a video they saw, or a testimony they saw, right?
So in the ways that you connect with people, you cover a lot of hard and complex topics sometimes. So, and, in the way that I've seen you approach some of these topics is very courageous and kind of this honesty and vulnerability in how you share part of yourself, honesty in how you think about, let's say, an opinion about news that's happening, or a social issue that's happening, or something that people consider taboo, right? Most people wouldn't jump and try to share something because of, the risks associated with that, of feeling like you're wrong. So where do you get the courage, and why do you think it's important for you to share your thoughts on these and to talk about these conversations?
Yeah. Well, it is actually, you mentioning now my next video is going to be about beauty standard in Japan. And I had a chat, an interview with a Japanese lady as well. And we kept talking about that, the fact that it's pretty hard for us to talk about no taboo topic and harsh topic that are going to make you, how to say, people are going to be identifying you through the content that you put out there. I think there's no actual reason, like I would say, okay, this is a specific reason why I had to talk about this topic. Usually it's because something happened to my life, I experienced something, and then when I think about it, oh, I'm a creative, I can't talk about this. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm not going to do that because people are going to judge me. But that whole night I won't sleep. It will keep in my head like, you have to talk about it, you have to talk about it. Maybe someone will benefit from this. So that's how I just dare talking about, topics like that. And it's pretty hard because when you get into the comment section, especially on SNS, places like Instagram and TikTok, YouTube not as much because people can be identified or something like that. But on Instagram and TikTok, people can be anonymous, and then you get all these harsh comments, and then you're like, oof, I know this will be a hard topic, and I expected the hate to come. So I'm like, yeah, it's fine, come at me anyways. But because you think it's helpful for some people.
Yeah, you touched on this a little bit, but in dealing with the feedback and all of that, how do you keep a balance with staying open to the criticism, but also rightly protecting yourself from the very personal attacks and criticisms that you have?
It's pretty difficult because the way the human brain function is that even if you have 100 positive comments, when there's one negative, you just keep thinking about that one negative. So I read a lot of books about how to take criticism positively and use it in ameliorating what you have to do about your life and things like that. So when I read the comments, I tend to first think, is this something that can help me enhance my content? Is this something that can help me enhance my way of thinking? Because who said that? I think Elon Musk is the one who said, assume you're wrong. Every time you're doing something, every time you're trying something, assume you're wrong, because that's the only way you can learn from other people. Don't take things personally. Always try to understand where people are coming from. There's also the harshest comments, because all these people, I don't know them. Like I would want to care. Maybe I would care for a day or two, and then I will not care at all. The toughest one are the one that comes from your friends and families. Comments hurts, especially when they're coming from your friends and family. But I cope with them in a way that I understand where they're coming from.
As a kind of last thing, so our program this year, the theme is sustainability. So I can't have an environmental expert in front of me without, speaking a little bit about what sustainability is. So I just wanted to ask what your thoughts are on what the role of creativity is or will be for how we deal with issues of sustainability or climate change.
It's very important for everybody who has a platform, and even I was about to say, even if they don't believe in sustainability, but that's also crazy to me, that not believing in sustainability at this point. But as long as you have a place to talk about things, as long as you have a platform, you have a presence, an audience, whether it's online or physical, it's so important to insert all the things you believe in, especially that sustainability now is so important for a country like mine. We are, I would say 60% of the area of Congo is covered by equatorial forest, and that makes us a big and important country when it comes to carbon sequestration, climate change, and things like that. But then there's also awareness that is not there in people's mind, or about what to do with our trees, what's the role of the trees, or for example, waste management, why we shouldn't throw this type of plastic in certain ways, why we shouldn't use that much plastic anyways. So I look at my country and I look at other countries and the way they're doing things, And even Japan, I would say Japan is also one of the most polluting countries in the world, and they use so much plastic. It's crazy to me. So there's always a way to try to link all of that and then talk about it. The first time I talked about plastic pollution in Japan was on TikTok, and I got so much hate. Actually, the video went viral because it was so controversial, and I didn't realize it's 5 million views, and people were just shocked about the fact that there's an overuse of plastic in Japan. And I was like, I thought this was a no-brainer. I thought everybody is seeing this and think this is a problem, but no, people were just putting it in like in kind of culture, like, oh yeah, it's the culture, Japanese people like packaging things very nicely. Yeah, but it's hurting the environment. It's a problem for sustainability. We need to use our resources more in how to say, smartly than before, because number one, climate change is a huge problem, ocean pollution is a huge problem, everything we're putting back in the environment is coming back to us anyways, and our health is being hurt, our expenses are being hurt. So it's important to remind people of all that, all these problems and how we can solve it. Not only leave the responsibility to big companies and governments, but also as individuals in our daily basis, what we do as actions, our small habits. We can do something, we can bring something to the table. How do I stay responsible? First of all, I try to, as Gandhi said, I think it's Gandhi, try to incarn yourself the change you want to see in your society. So I try myself to behave as a person that I wish everybody would like be. The ideal person who wants to see sustainability and all these environmental issues in on earth being solved, how would that person behave? What would that person do? So I tried my best to do that, to be that person, to act like that person, so I could feel good about myself and say, hey, I'm doing something about this, I'm trying to do something about this. And of course, every time I receive questions about that, or a debate about that, or there's a conference about that, I put myself out there. I try to like bring my, how to say, bring my point of view, bring what I know, bring my knowledge to the table, and also like converse with the people who are concerned by that and who can do something about it.
Thank you so much. We've come like to the end of our interview. It is so like I was so inspired. Like a lot of what you shared, so wise and so really powerful. So thank you so much for your time. And as a last thing, so we are going to show this to the second year scholars. Do you have, let's say, a question that you might want them to think about for the future?
How does your everyday habit, how is your current system? Let's just say I would summarize all this to one question. How is your current system allowing you to become the person you want to be?
Amazing.
That's the question. I think that will bring room to discussion and ask people, make people wonder about changing the environment. Many authors say that you are the average of the 5 people you're surrounded by.
Yes.
It's so true. It's
Yes.
so true. So how is your current system? How is your environment allowing you or inhibiting you to become the person you want to become in life? That's my only question.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this. Was a really, really exciting interview. So welcome, Celine, to our MRF virtual space. It's so great to have you here. So for those people who don't know you, can you share with us what you do and who is Celine Tshika?
Wow. I guess I'm a creative, multidisciplinary creative, and I work primarily in the film industry. And I'm a writer, a screenwriter, and a filmmaker generally, and a musician, and just all of the artsy, creative things is what I do. It's annoying, it's frustrating.
So you also did study engineering?
Yes.
Yes. So engineer?
African parents. I
Yeah.
didn't really have a choice. It's part of the deal.
Yeah, of course. So I think that's kind of the interesting point of like your journey. So obviously you're like this multidisciplinary, but you also have this background in engineering, which is like worlds away. So I think in terms of creativity then, because you've experienced kind of both worlds, how would you define creativity for yourself? And how does it influence like what you do?
The most value I got from engineering is just realizing, I think, throughout the 4 years that it's really problem solving. That's what it is, and problem solving in a way that takes so many different factors into account. And I think that's where creativity comes in. I find that in the film industry, in in activism in general, which has always been a part of pretty much every decision that I make, is that it's trying to solve a problem and thinking of different ways to do it, um, in new ways, in ways that are kind of defined by you, that only you could really think of. So I think that's where what creativity means to me is, yeah.
So what does your like typical day to day look like? It's a safe space.
I try so hard to have some sort of structure. It doesn't always work out. I'm just doing too many things.
But how did it all start actually? Like writing, dancing, filmmaking, like where did it start? I mean, like maybe you can explain like why you did engineering first, like, and then like where these like where they came from, like the other creative
Oh
activity.
no, that's a good question. I know I joke a lot about the parents and all of that, and of course they were a huge part of it.
Yeah.
But I do secretly really love physics, and so I kind of was always going to be interested in that. So then, when I figured out that I wanted to be an actor, at the time I didn't really know how to reconcile that, and but I knew that I wanted to go do it. So I think civil just ended up being the most logical way that I could fulfill that part of me that hopes to one day do X, Y, and Z in the activist space,
Yeah.
and then go on and be a creative.
Yeah.
So that's the origin story.
Awesome.
Very cheesy.
Awesome. So as I've shared with you, I think the second year program is really about creation. So let's talk a little bit about that. So a lot of your creation is centered around storytelling and some kind of social commentary as well. So for example, like one of my all-time favorites is the mockumentary Wapidemic, that is like so funny, so on point. For people who don't know, it's a mockumentary about, how the lives of four men were impacted by the song by Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion called WAP. So how did you even come up with that? Like, where did that come from? Please walk us through like that story. How, like, what your creative process is like.
Yeah, I think it's genuinely just about noticing people's reactions to things. So I'm very interested in social topics and social issues, and so when it comes to feminism and women's sexual agency and all of that, I tend to notice, okay, a lot of men are responding in this way. So I actually didn't listen to or know about the song in the first 2 weeks that it was out. I just saw the tag on Twitter, and then there were all these video essays from men, just like, I have a daughter, how is the song doing this? And I thought, what are they talking about? And when I watched the video, I was like, oh, okay, I understand why they're so mad. This is hilarious. And I think that I had this very weird script in progress about a mockumentary. I'd always wanted to make one, and then I thought, oh, this is it. I found the topic. And so, yeah, it did evolve over time. It didn't start as a mockumentary. It kind of just started as a sketch, like a sketch comedy type thing. And then I realized that satire is something that I really love, and I feel like it's a very effective way of commenting on things.
Yes.
And yeah, so I thought, oh, this is the best, is to absolutely make fun of it and also take into account that there's been a pandemic and it's really altered our worlds, and to try and like play into that. So that's how it came about.
Amazing. It feels like it's like this combination of like work that was in progress, but also staying in tune with like what's happening around the world. Your content also kind of, I feel, resonates because it has such a message that is like super on point. So how do you get to like that message that's so clear?
I think that I always have the message first. Like I know what I want to say. And I think that just growing up and evolving and all of that, looking at myself, I realized that I've never been a very confrontational person. And so the best way for me to deliver a message is to kind of package it in a pretty undercover, sneaky way. That's how I see comedy. It's just like sneaking it into there and hoping that people get it from then. And so I think I've just kind of played into that and okay, how can I communicate this in the most effective way that isn't me arguing with people, but rather just entertaining them in the way that makes them think a little bit and reflect on themselves.
How do you like make sure that, let's say, the message that you want to convey is both yours but also like responsible?
That's a really great question. I did actually think about that with Wapidemic, where I thought about how I was comparing it to this pandemic, which was actually a pretty traumatic global thing that, and a lot of people lost, loved ones during this time. It's a lot of forethought. It's a lot of taking time before jumping into making this thing, and also speaking to other people about it. A lot of times, just getting feedback from others, and seeing, okay, do they point out this, after they've read it, can I ask this question and see if they got this from it. So I'd say sensitivity is the main answer to that question.
So let's talk a bit about your comedy, your style of comedy. So I feel like it's quite infused with like influences that are very much based on your cultural identity. In what ways does your cultural identity influence just your creativity in general?
I think it's me coming, I don't know, full circle from being born in Congo and in this Congolese diaspora in South Africa. That was just very Congolese people everywhere around me, every Sunday, every Saturday, and being thrown into certain different spaces and having all these identity crises throughout my life. So I think that a lot of the humor comes from me just having been confused about how I identify. I think it's just about grappling with my identity and throwing some of it out there and seeing who relates.
Definitely, I think like your comedy or your creation and your style of a satire even is this kind of fusion between Congolese culture and like South African culture. You can clearly see it, you can.
Thank you. I'm so glad that translates.
But you've also you've studied in the United States, right? So that's exposure to like a different culture. And actually your award-winning series Jess Goes West was a kind of story about that experience. Been in various films, you've kind of you were just in a shoot recently, you have created web series, you're on social media as well. So with all of this, it's kind of, if you can see kind of creativity as a currency, it's kind of draining. So how do you fill up that creativity again?
Recently, it's been me coming to terms with all of these things fulfill me in some way, but they don't all have to be my career right now. It really does just come down to just choosing to focus on maximum two things and being disciplined within myself. And I don't say discipline in the sense that like wake up at 5 and do this and go for a run, like not that kind of discipline, but discipline that like I can't say yes to this thing, which is something I really struggle with because I want to do all of the things all at once. And accepting that I can't turn off any of the other stuff. I can just kind of let them be fun, let them be hobbies.
Besides like leaving things as hobbies, are there any other things that you do, let's say as a practice, to kind of maintain that emotional, mental and physical capacity, in the line of work that you're in?
Reading really does help. I think reading reading has that effect on me. It's a different form of storytelling that I don't ever expect myself to do, like reading novels.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I try to use TV shows to escape, it doesn't work, because then I think I should be writing this. Why didn't I write something like this? And it's just back in the same trap again. So I think
that's so interesting. Is that your work?
it's exhausting. But I think reading is just a great way to get back in touch with what I see as storytelling in a pretty pure form. Journaling also is really important to me. Yeah, journaling really does that. Yeah, getting back in touch, with things about myself where I can't really hide. I can't hide when I'm journaling.
Yeah.
I'm not on my phone when I'm reading.
In this context of like being in the entertainment industry, where the environment is quite tough, as a career. You're working in South Africa, so the Department of Arts, I don't know what they're called, they're not the most amazing, supportive people. I heard about the South African flag saga, like, that kind of thing. The time that it takes, filming, writing.
Yeah.
Why do you do it? Like, what motivates you to kind of keep being in there, keep going?
Yeah, that's the question. Sometimes I ask myself that as well. I mean, it is thrilling in a way. It's like it's very fun, the process of making stuff. But I think that knowing how important it is to tell stories is what keeps me there. Yeah, just valuing other artists around me, also having friends who are artists, keeps me motivated, because I recognize how important their craft is and how it impacts me as well, and how great it is to go to a friend's show and listen to them, share songs that they've written and all of that, and how fulfilling that is for me and fulfilling it is for everyone there. So I think just acknowledging that it is important and reminding myself of that, and also just unfortunately not having a choice. I can't not tell stories. I can't not do this. And knowing that I would be miserable if I were not doing that, is kind of what keeps me there.
What is the kind of impact or influence that are you seeing something from, like, your work?
That's a good question. Yes, so I remember from the web series, which was my first ever project that I put out, I got this message from, I don't know who. It was this girl in Kenya who was reposting the trailer, and who said, "I'm so excited to see this. Oh my gosh!" And there was another message like that from also another total stranger, and that meant so much to me. Like, it was a very small show with a very small following, but it made me realize how important it is, because as much as things are changing and things are evolving, there is still an underrepresentation of Black women in comedy, or making shows, or telling stories from where I'm from. And I think I just keep chasing that fulfillment, that there is some difference to be made.
How do you deal with the fear or the cringe, or you spoke about embarrassment of like something sitting out there on the internet that you'd written about? Like, how do you deal with all of those feelings? Because I feel like sometimes that's the barrier to like creation. Like, we don't know how to deal with those feelings enough to kind of just do it.
Yeah, that is very valid. I talk about my web series like it wasn't a thing, but I like have several moments of cringe like once a week, where I think, oh my gosh, that's out there, people can watch it. Oh no. But I think acknowledging that, like, I'm doing the best with what I can right now. That was my best at the time, and 2020 was my best, and academic was my best, and that best is always going to be changing and always going to be evolving. And it's been about accepting that I had to start there to get here. yeah, it's just acknowledging that my voice is my voice, and my, you know, talent is my talent, and this is where I'm at. And yeah, I can only be where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's such good advice. How do you balance, you know, this feeling of like, I need to be open to feedback from people, but also I need to protect myself from like personal attacks? How do you practice like knowing what to take in and protecting yourself?
Generally, before something like a big project is shared, there are trusted people, you know, who are sent scripts or edits or something like that before it's shared. So I think it's about knowing whose opinion to value and who you know, will give me constructive criticism. Yeah, I'm deeply sensitive to criticism. I wish I was not, but oh my gosh, it could break my heart with it. But so usually by the time something, at least something that's particularly important to me, is out there, then it's already been through that. If those people who are important to me haven't brought it up, or who have already brought it up, you know, no one else can really hurt me, you know, at this point. So yeah, it's knowing what is really important, and what I really need feedback for, because this is an important story, or this is an important project, and what can just be tossed out there because this is fun. When, you know, if the feedback is negative, or it's you know, change this, change that, if it isn't something that alters the message or anything, then it's likely something that I will, you know, I will consider.
That's so powerful, because I think it speaks to like integrity, right? Like you have something that's so important to you, like centering African voices, centering African bodies and social justice, and not flinching, you know, away from that. And it's like that's really, really powerful. I really like that you highlighted that, you know, you are part of this community of other creatives who are giving you feedback, because I think the perception is always that you are the artist and there's just one artist and you go in your little bubble and then you like, ha, and then you like put it out there. But there's actually like this process of collaboration and, you know, feedback that happens. So, you know, that's actually really, really great to highlight. So actually 2 questions, but my first one is, you want to take over the world, right? What's your agenda here? Why? Like, what's your secret agenda, please?
Yes, world domination is technically my plan, but but I have very big dreams, I think, for the African continent in general. I think that the more I learn about our own stories, about colonization and all of that, I care so deeply about us getting back in touch with ourselves and our identity, and in this very complicated space we navigate that's very westernized, and what to hold on to, what to let go of. That's my agenda. My secret agenda is for is for Africans to have a well-functioning, thriving artistic field where we are encouraged to look at ourselves, learn as much as we can about ourselves and our culture, and and just recognize that we are the bomb, you know. So that really is it, and activism, and just trying to get to a point where we are self-sustaining, and that's honestly my evil secret plot.
Please dominate us. We are minions. We are your minions, all of us. I can get behind that. That's beautiful. Beautiful plan. Like, I can definitely get behind that. So the last question I had, or the last request, is, so this video is going to be shown to the second years. If you were to leave them with one question that they need to think about for the future, and, you know, as part of their journey as well, do you have a question? What would it be?
I think it would be oof, that's a tough one. Only one. I'd say what is, I guess, my guiding principle is this for the common good? You know, will this impact, will this contribute to the common good?
Yeah.
That's genuinely what motivates all of my storytelling. What is it about you that you are the only person who can do this? Because that's really comes down to what creativity is, you know. So yeah, I'm sorry, I know I cheated a little bit. The second one.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. Like, I learned so much from you as well. Like, so thank you so much, Celine.